Hello there, and welcome to the CP7 Podcast. My name's Palm,
And I'm Andy.
and together we are Chrono Passion 7. Hello, and welcome to another episode of your favourite watch-related podcast. On the day that Swatch took the Moon Swatch out of the shop windows and put them online, we put ourselves in the shop window at Geneva Watch Days with loads of brands and loads of new friends and connections. But before we go into that, we're going to do a quick wristwatch check. Andy, what have you got on the wrist then?
I am wearing today the RZE Resolute Pro in medallion yellow. It's a really cool watch. We connected with Hui from RZE and we had a really great conversation with him. And we got the opportunity to choose any piece we wanted from their site to review. Really nice opportunity for us and a great opportunity as well. Hugh is going to be coming onto a dedicated show where we're going to share our feelings around the watches we've been trying and also just learn more about the brand. What are my first initial feelings? I absolutely love the medallion yellow. It's enamel coated as well, so it really, really pops. And the cool thing with RZE is the pieces are all titanium, as we mentioned in the Summer Watch Show, and they have this ultra hex coating on them as well, which makes the titanium quite durable, quite resilient. It just feels like a really nice, sturdy tool watch. And for the price point, I mean, it's just hard to argue with at $659, which is going to be somewhere close to €650, give or take. I think it's worth every penny. I'm really, really impressed personally, but I shelve it at that because we're going to dig into these watches more. But equally, Palm, curious, what do you have on your wrist today?
Well, just by pure coincidence, I am also wearing a watch by RZE. And following the same conversation we had with Huey, I opted for the Fortitude GMT with the crimson red dial. And I got to say, wow, I am so impressed with what they are doing and what they're doing at this price point. I don't want to just limit it to the price point because that's not fair on the attention to detail that has gone into this watch. It's a travel watch, GMT. It's a pilot's watch, could you say? It kind of has the bezel has that Oris Pro Pilot X kind of serrated look. But I don't want to get too into it. The detail they have put, simple things like the date wheel is in black, which doesn't match the red fume textured dial, sandwich dial. But the minute track is black and the inner bezel is also black. And then the numbers, the numerals on the date wheel are in an orangey yellow, which matches the GMT hand and the triangle at 12. So a lot of effort has gone into making this and making this superb. I'm loath most of the time to take a watch off a metallic bracelet. This has been no exception. It's been on the bracelet. I love it. I love the titanium. I love the ultra hex and giving it that extra special sheen as well. Very impressed, as you can tell. Very, very impressed.
I think it's important to say we're not affiliated. We're not paid. This is not paid promotion. This is just genuine, honest reactions to these pieces.
Yeah, we're probably waxing lyrical here. Good shout, Andy. It's not. We are not paid to say this. We just
We're
believe
passion.
in this
Chrono
brand.
Passion
Yeah.
7, right?
Passion. It's all about the passion, and we're going to talk about a lot of passion today. So, Andy, Geneva Watch Days. What are the listeners going to hear about today then?
Wow. Extreme fun, excitement, incredible networking, meeting amazing human beings and people, discovering incredible watches, and maybe a little bit of too much partying. But the main thing is everybody else was in the same boat, so I don't feel too guilty for the partying, to be fair. But it's safe to say we must have drank maybe 10 bottles of champagne between us over the 3 days.
I thought you were going to say each.
Yeah, well, the body in my body still feels that way.
It feels like it, yeah.
Yeah. So we want to share our experience, and this is show 1 of 2. It is no other way of doing this because we saw so many incredible brands what deserve so much attention, and they gave us so much time to sit with them. And the nice thing, we've mentioned this before, but the nice thing about Geneva Watch Days, Watches and Wonders is an incredible event, but it's certainly a more higher pressure event for everybody involved. Geneva Watch Days is a more come on in, sit down, relax, have a drink with us. It's a different kind of ambience, which is more soothing. You feel like you're connecting more with the watches. You've got a bit more time with the brand, and you can really get an essence of the brand more. So that's what we hopefully be trying to get across to you as well. Not only the watches, to share the essence of these brands who we saw over the days of Geneva Watch Days. Let's do what we always do, where it all began. And let's start with you, Palm, for a change. It always starts with me. So how did your journey start? How did it all go?
Yep, it normally begins in Barcelona. Well, for you, not me. It starts in London. For me, had a flight at a normal time. My flight was at 11:30 a.m. Got on the plane, no hassle, no worries, no delays. Then we sat on the plane, and then it's the first time we thought, right, okay, we're not moving. Okay, there's going to be a slight delay, no problem. And then the plane starts moving, and it just stops. And we're like, oh God, it's taxiing, and it's just stopped. And I saw this like queue of 2 aeroplanes or something on the runway. It was insane. I've never seen that before. So I thought, okay. So there's me messaging Andy. Right, I'm just about to take off because I knew he's getting there half an hour, 40 minutes before me. He's having his famous quiche, obviously. Just about to take off, and then I was like, 20 minutes later, we're still on the ground. I explained the situation. I was thinking, uh-oh. I was due to arrive mid-afternoon, and by the looks of it, it looked like we were going to miss the whole afternoon's appointments. So I was like, okay, look, I don't know what to do. I think Andy rearranged a couple. I'm sure he'll go through that bit anyway when he says his bit. And we took off late, very late, probably an hour late. And then I don't know what, this pilot must have hit the gas. We were zooming there. The amount of turbulence on the flight, the plane was shaking quite a bit on multiple occasions. And it was kind of like, wow, this is a bit full on. And then got the call, 20 minutes to land. And it was like, wow, we there? What's going on? I thought I was going to be over an hour late. And I think we're only 15 minutes late in the end. He'd shaved off 45 minutes at least of the journey by just putting it full throttle. Yeah, insane.
That was crazy because filling in, obviously, I won't bore you with same thing as Palm. Go to the airport. Everything was smooth for me. And then there I am in Geneva Airport. So that's it, really. And obviously, eagerly awaiting Palm's arrival. And then get the classic message, I'm a bit delayed, or like, okay, Dan, I'm gonna have to get into the booking schedule, rearrange with some brands, which I did do. So I saved some appointments, managed to move things around to take the pressure off for when I thought Palm was going to arrive. And then I just got this message, like after me panicking through the Excel sheets on my mobile phone, right? Not on the laptop or anything. About 20 minutes after me doing that, you're like, I've landed. I'm like, really? Like how? Like how are you?
How
like,
did
it's
this
not
happen?
over exaggerating. Yeah, it's no over exaggeration of this. That's like one of the fastest flights I've ever known, which is great. It got as long as you got there, you did get there safely. So
We did,
that's the main thing.
The turbulence was a bit hair raising, shall we say?
Yeah, but look, you got there. We relaxed, right? We had a quick drink in the airport. Had a bit of a catch up because we rearranged the appointments, and then it was time to get to our hotel. And it wasn't in France. It wasn't in Germany.
It was in Geneva. Believe it or not,
it was bang in the center, just near the Breitling boutique, like prime location. We nailed it this time. Because you're running around all day, seeing all the brands, and you're getting. It was hot. Geneva was extremely hot for the time of year. I know it's summertime, or it's technically like the back end of summer, but the temperatures were in the 30s. And just to be able, after a hard day of running around to various appointments, because not everything's in one location, you're jumping from hotel to hotel. Just the luxury of not having to get an Uber, or basically say we're going to have to stay in the same clothes if we want to stay out. By the time we go get an Uber to France, change, come back, everything's going to be finished.
Done.
So the luxury just to go back to the hotel and change, freshen up. even if it is just for 15, 20 minutes, it felt great. And I think that's how we need, certainly how we need to do things moving forward. I think we can build a bit of the story around the events of the days, but equally what's important are the brands who we saw and not just us having fun around Geneva. So I think that leads nicely to, it's in no particular order, and it's not necessarily in the order of the brands we saw on day 1, day 2, day 3. As I say, we just picked some of the highlights for show 1, and then, of course, the next highlights will be in episode 2. And there's no favoritism. It's just we have to start somewhere. But one brand who we do always like to go and see is Jacob & Co. And they always look after us extremely well. It's always very welcoming. And it was just great to just kick back, relax, and see what they had been up to. And Pam, you managed to get to see a watch that I somehow missed, which I don't know how that happened, but you tried on the new Bugatti Tourbillon. So how did you find that?
I did, but first we missed the party the night before, which we really do regret. And I think next year we'll come a day earlier, I think, just in case there's a Jacob party
100%.
or another party that we would miss. And we don't want to do that because Jacob will always look after you. It's just such a delight going there. And then the watches that you see, yes. So as they say, seeing is believing. So what happens is they put the watches out for you to see, and there's a queue of people wanting to see it. There's journalists, and then there's also customers, potential buyers. The journalists get it for quite a lot of time, but then I think if a customer comes in, they kind of possibly have to prioritize them, or just someone interested in the brand. The watches sometimes get taken over to the other side of the room because there's an important person that's requested a view. And I think, unfortunately for Andy, that's what happened. But I got to try it on, and it was pretty cool. It was the Bugatti Tourbillon in black, very similar to the sapphire Bugatti Tourbillon we saw earlier on in the year. But the unique thing about this was it was made in a collaboration between Jacob & Co. and Bugatti. But this time, the car was called the Tourbillon. The car manufacturer has taken on the name of the watch, which is very rare. As they were saying, you get many watches called a tourbillon, but you don't get many cars, if not any cars, apart from this one, named so. It just goes to show the clout that Jacob & Co. have in this extremely high-end luxury world. And it was, again, incredible. The fun thing about this was I knew how to wind it. I knew how to make the piston-like movement go. And it was just a lot of fun, good fun, playing around with it and looking at it.
I'm gutted I missed it. I did do a little article on that for a different outlet, and just to get hands-on with it, it would have been nice. But and some things I know about the watches, it's not quite the same sapphire block what was in the previous Tourbillon, because the previous engine in the Bugatti was a W12, now it's a V16, so they actually engineered a brand new sapphire engine block. Of course, that's extremely difficult to do, and then have all the pistons move so freely. And we also upped the frequency of the engine as well, so it's more fluid in how it animates now as well. Plus the addition of like retrograde minutes on there as well, which is really cool to give that essence of a sports car. No accelerating and then flicking back through the gears. Really cool. I can visualize it very well, but I didn't actually see it in the metal. But there we go. These things happen. But what I did see in the metal was something quite... What's a word? How do I describe this? Just mind-blowing. It was the brilliant flying Tourbillon, and it's just one solid block, white gold, brilliant cut diamond watch with a Tourbillon at 6 o'clock. And the way the diamonds all flow together, it's absolutely seamless. And when I say seamless, I mean there's no seams between the diamonds. It's just perfection. It's one big statement. And you see these pieces, like this is something, what do you think, Pam? I think like Rihanna would wear or something. It's that level, right? Or Jay-Z. It's this top tier kind of watch, right?
Tier, huge personality, big big personality, huge, larger than life personality. Yeah,
It's a baller's watch. There's no other way to put it.
it's bling to the max.
Try something like that, whether it's to your taste or not, just to able to have that kind of wealth on your wrist, which is a serious amount of money, and to have a connection with that. And it's evident when you look at a Jacob & Co. watch that his jewelry experience and master jewelry making it's just evident in the watchmaking. And when he marries the two arts together, such as a tourbillon and his expertise and the brand's expertise in gem setting, it's really like a piece of art. That's the best way of putting it. Whether that art is to your taste or not, you cannot take away from it how incredibly perfect it's been executed. Like I'm no expert with gem setting, but it was absolutely flawless to my untrained eye. I'm sure to an expert's trained eye, it also is at this level. But how did you find that piece?
I found it absolutely incredible. I mean, the diamonds were Jacob cut diamonds. He's got his own cut. Well, not Tiffany cut or any other cut. This was his own cut of diamond. That's how advanced a jeweler Jacob is. And just the layout, when you look at this, you think this isn't something that's been made. This looks like a natural phenomenon. It just looks like something that's been created out of the forces of nature, because it's just something else. And I'll tell you a funny story. We were looking at these and taking the wrist rolls and wrist shots. And that's the point where I got a message on WhatsApp from the wife saying, "Oh, you haven't sent me any photos yet." And I was like, "Oh, this it had to be at this stage, didn't it?" And she's obviously joking. Yeah, I'll take two. But if I had 880,000 Swiss francs to spend on one of these, I'd be happy. But unfortunately not. But very, again, when you go to Jacob, very high-end luxury. You're in a dream world. You're in a world where reality for most of us doesn't exist. But they are so welcoming.
Yeah.
You can see all of this stuff.
There's no discomfort whatsoever. It's good for dream building,
build a dream.
manifestation,
Put on the
and
mood
all
board.
that good stuff. And good as a journalist on watches, funny enough. But one challenge. This was, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a third time at Jacob & Co., the third visit. So third time is the charm. The first two times is a piece that Pam, I know you really like, so maybe you want to say this, The Godfather, right? I think the last two times you've asked for that watch.
Both times. Once they said, "Oh, yes," and then I think because it's so busy, it just didn't happen. Second time, they didn't have it, so it was like, okay, fair enough. But this time, when they said, "Yes, we've got it," I was just thinking, is it going to actually come out? I don't know. I'm a huge, huge fan of the films. I think most people from my generation are, if you're a movie buff, that is. Just seeing it, winding it, hearing the Godfather theme. I was saying to them, "Oh, I feel like I'm in Sicily now, in the fields of Sicily, with Al Pacino with a flat cap on and a rifle over his shoulder, just walking through Corleone to see the Godfather watch and see how big it is as well and how much is going on with it. It's not a simple watch to look at. There's a lot going on, very complicated. A lot of work, time, thought, and creativity have gone into making this business, not personal. It's it's the bee's knees. It's the Don. It is the Don.
Yeah, the attention to detail is superb. I love that the crown, what you use to wind the music box, is the violin, right?
Yeah,
it's really cool. Like, it's a really nice little detail. Just little touches like that, and just seeing the little music barrels roll.
I remember
it's really,
there was
really
a party that were with us sitting on the sofa on the side, and it wouldn't work for them because they needed winding. And I said, "It sleeps with the fishes," and he was like, "Get out!" Because obviously they'd never heard that joke before. I was in full Godfather mode. I had cotton balls stuffed in my cheeks. I was in my tux on the day of my daughter's wedding. Yeah,
you were taking over
on the day of my daughter's wedding. All this is all going on.
Every catchphrase from the movie franchise
Yeah.
was said. Then there was another piece what came. This is an important one. It was the new Jacob & Co. novelty. It was the new oil pump with the tourbillon feature. Now at a slightly smaller diameter to fit the wrist, a bit nicer, more curved, angular lugs as well. Taking that Astronomia case shape, it's not an Astronomia, but it has that similar kind of case shape, form factor, if you like. However, it just had that additional animation of the tourbillon. It was kind of off-centered tourbillon. It was between, let me say, 4 and 5 o'clock, which was a little bit different. And then you have the classic oil pump mechanism on there as well. So really cool piece, and we'll drop the video in the show notes because we got a quick one in there. Pam hit the animation button, so we caught that. And yeah, it's really cool to check it out. So then, I think that should lead nicely to the next brand.
De Bethune, one of my favorite brands, actually. One of my favorite independent brands. And I set us the Geneva Watch Days Croissant Challenge.
I just wanted food, to be clear. You wanted croissants. For me, it was just
it was,
sandwich.
It was business, not personal. And I just wanted a croissant as a memory of the last year. So if this is the last show, if you have no idea what I'm talking about. But last year we turned up and there was tons of freshly baked buttery croissants, and we just felt like we couldn't have we didn't get any, and we were kind of wondering who gets these. But this year we went to De Bethune, saw some amazing watches. I got the croissant, but we'll talk about that later. We're here to talk about watches. So there were two novelties, and off the two, I'm going to kick off with the XS Aerolite, which is a meteorite dial. It's got a titanium 38.7 millimeter case. But the unique thing about this meteorite, because when they said it's meteorite, we were like, well, okay, that does not look like meteorite to me. And then you put you play with the light. This is the thing what I love about a really well-made De Bethune watch is when you play with the light on the dial, magical things happen, things appear. Stars upon a stream of water, ripples in the water with stars twinkling in them. But they've colored the watch as well. They used a unique heat treated the meteorite. I mean, a meteorite must go through some considerable heat coming into the Earth's orbit. So I don't know how much heat they used on this one, but it created an amazing crescendo of colors of blues, turquoise, purple, red, burgundies, pinks. It just created a whole experience on that dial. And then when you, like I mentioned, the playing with the light, you kind of tilt it, but then you can see the ridges that you'd normally get on a meteorite, those straight lines, straight geometrical lines at angles. It all becomes apparent, and then you try it on, and it's so light because it's titanium. It's bead blasted or treated to blacken the actual metal on the case, the titanium, and it's just in true De Bethune style, something absolutely amazing. Check out the show notes on our website, which is www.chronopassion7 to have a look at this, and also the Jacob watches we mentioned before, and all the watches we're going to talk about later on in the show. But this was probably, I mean, I'm loath to say my favorite, but you know what? I was telling a lot of people at the time that was my favorite watch. I don't want to have a favorite. I don't want to say this was the star, this was this, but I have to say the De Bethune was one that really did stand. The XS Aerolite really did stand out.
Yeah, I think it's just brands what make, not brands. Let me correct myself. There's watches. It doesn't matter the brand, and it doesn't matter the level of horology. Just certain watches make, and you're going to see this throughout the show, just make a heavy hitting impression on you. And we're talking sub 1K watches, which really impressed us. We'll be coming to them a little bit later. Equally, far more, 80K watches, etc., made big impressions on us as well. Just to finish on the Aerolite, absolutely incredible. So like Palm said, I couldn't actually believe that it was a meteorite dial at first, due to just so much patterning on the dial and the colours. The colours have nothing to do with what you would normally see on a meteorite. And then only when you get it on the correct angle, you see those flat, traditional kind of textured patterns, what you get with meteorite. And I agree with Palm. It really made an impression on me as well. But equally, the DB28 XS steel wheels also for me made a big impression. It was skeletonized. It always reminds me, it's kind of a skeleton. It's like the kind of blue, what they did the previous year, but it's not the kind of blue. But I mean, just to give you the visualization, it's got that kind of Star Trek logo, which I like with De Bethune. It's this cool futuristic brand, and they use the floating lugs, which are incredible. The way as you just pull the strap onto your wrist and it just starts to hug around your wrist perfectly. And they just have such a cool vibe. There's no other way of putting it, but just have so much character, so much uniqueness, which sometimes can be hard to be found within this industry. There's a lot of uniqueness, but occasionally something comes along what's just not comparable to anything. And the DB28s, as a series, as a family, certainly are iconic in the world of De Bethune. But the detail in it was a mirrored dial, this silver mirrored dial on the steel wheels. And then the Star Trek like logo in the center has some beautiful guillichet or anglage is probably not the correct word. Almost like the finishing what you would see on the back of a watch, like the Geneva stripes, this kind of detailing. Just really, really nice texture and like ribbon texture to the finish. I don't know the exact finish technique, what they did, but I think it did actually have anglage going around it because it really, really smooth and crisp. But then in the main center of that logo, it had more your traditional finishing, what you'd normally see on the back of the movement. So really incredible things what De Bethune were doing. I think we both were equally impressed, and I really enjoyed the sandwich and the coffee. So it was a
I got my
win-win.
croissant.
Excellent watches, great food. Palm got his croissant. I think that's why you look. Yeah, I think that's why you're a bit biased, to be honest. They just bought you with a
Well,
croissant.
yeah, they're my favorite brand because I broke the croissant duck. But going on to that steel wheels, it was a mirror dial as well. All that going on, and then a mirror dial, so you could do your hair and have a shave in it. Yeah, superb watch. I love like you say, the Star Trek almost wishbone arrowhead style feature, should we say, in the middle. Blued hands, the traditional crown at 12 o'clock as De Bethune do, and that case shape, typical classic De Bethune. And it is a brand that it sits in its own place. I think De Bethune does. There's a lot of very good independent brands, high end, very collectible, very prominent. But De Bethune, there's something about a De Bethune owner. You just kind of give them a bit of kudos, a little bit more kudos. I do
Yeah,
anyway.
you kind of have a nod of respect, I would say.
Yeah,
You kind of like, okay, I got you.
yeah.
You're a real collector kind of
You
thing.
know what
Yeah,
time it is.
yeah, that's a cool way of putting it. Yeah, 100% that. And then I think that leads us nicely to Favre Leuba and a brilliant brand. Obviously, it's a rebirth, and we checked out their full range. It was a great experience, as well as always with all of these brands. You just really get to know them, sit down, they taught you through the thought process behind these pieces. And they really wanted to pay close attention to respecting their heritage, but whilst bringing the brand into the 21st century at the same time. And a great example is like the Chief Date. It looked absolutely fantastic. It had such a nice textured dial. For me, it was reminiscent of the Zenith Skyline. And that kind of, it wasn't a copy. This is, of course, based off the Chief from the original era. However, just this texture to the dial, it had this sporty look and it made it a lot more interesting. And the first initial impression, and I think this is important because this is a new brand, so a lot of our listeners, won't necessarily know. It's one thing looking at a picture going, yeah, that looks cool, but is it any good? That's probably the real question. Matt Bowman, shout out. I know that's that's what you want to know. And I can say with confidence, the build quality of the bracelet, of the case, just the feel of the watches for the price points. You're talking 5K, 4K, 3K kind of price ranges, and they felt superb. The finishing was top. The feel on the wrist was really good. The curvature, the respect to the heritage, but again, bringing it to a modern era. For me, I was extremely impressed. The Chief Date, I really, really liked a lot. Then another great one, a bit more out there, was the Deep Blue as well. Funny name, because it's actually bright green, the one what we tried on. But really fun watches, really comfortable to wear. Genuinely excited to see where the journey is going to go with Favre Leuba. But my first impressions was they nailed it. But Palm, I feel like I've talked too much already on this one. How did you find the pieces?
Yeah, it was a brand I hadn't heard of before. I did hear recently that it's a rebirth brand from a very classic vintage old watch company. And I was impressed. It's sports watches. I mean, how can I was a bit, oh, it's going to be all dress watches. And while I don't mind dress watches, I'm obviously more welcoming towards sports watches. And the Chief Date, as soon as that came out, we talk about the nod. It came out with a green dial, that green waffle dial, really well made, integrated bracelet, almost cushion case, you could say. Yeah, cushiony case. Yeah, waffle dial, integrated bracelet, date complication, obviously being called the Chief Date, but impressive, very impressive, and sub $3,000 price point as well. It felt luxurious. It felt like it was worth a lot more. And yeah, that was my favorite of this brand. But then a close second was the Deep Blue Revival, the Diver, 39 millimeters, the CP7 sweet spot. And I just also loved that. I preferred the Chief Date, but it was a close contest between the Deep Blue Revival and that. Amazing watches.
Question.
Yeah.
Would you go Chief Date or Chief Chronograph? We did try both.
Date.
But which?
No contest.
You go for the Date.
Easy decision for me.
Bit cleaner look.
Yeah.
Yeah, the chronograph changes the aesthetics of the case somewhat,
Yeah, the
right?
pushers.
With the pushers.
Yeah, that's the thing. The pushers,
Yeah.
I think, probably give a bit too much to it. More on the eye than I'd probably desire.
It's a beautiful case shape. Very, very clean lines. The Deep Blue was one of the iconics. It's an iconic from the vintage range. Very well respected. Again, they tributed the brand correctly. I think the whole launch was correct. One last final detail when you flip these watches over was the finishing on the movement, the rotor. Everything was done to a very nice quality.
Superb quality.
Yeah, you feel it. You feel it. And there's other brands we have tried in the same category, and we're not going to say the brands out of respect, but there's a difference. And we've equally tried brands at the same category what feel as good as well. But there's just some brands what are in this category what are at their top of the game, and there's others who are still finding the way. And to say they've just hit the market, they're at that top of that category when it comes to that price point for quality, I would say. It's great to see an old brand back with a lot of heritage, a lot of history, and very exciting to see what's next. So definitely one to keep an eye on, I would say.
But let's not forget the Sea Sky Revival, which I was, again, very impressed with. It was a tough one. This is the thing. All three, I'm looking at all three again, and I'm thinking, okay, Chief Date, for me, connected better. But then you look at this Sea Sky Revival, it's a vintage diver's chronograph, I would say. That's probably the best way. Is it yeah. Sea Sky, yeah. So
it's a Sea Sky. I kind of feel like it's some kind of Navy SEAL dive parachuting out of a plane, but then into the ocean on a secret ops mission.
Parachutist chronograph. But it's a reverse panda with silver subdials. Really, it's got Breitling vibes to it. This is what it reminds me of, and I think a Breitling chronograph is so iconic. And I think, I mean, at the time, I'm guessing they were both producing high quality stuff, and I think if they keep going in this direction, they'll be doing something very right. Such a good watch.
Completely agree. I could give a lot of love to this brand, and it's not a biased thing. Once again, it's just when a brand impresses you, it impresses you.
Yeah,
and that's it, right?
Yeah.
Equally, we were speaking with various other journalists who were echoing the same feelings as us as well, which was a good sign.
Yeah.
One, that We know what we're talking about.
Yeah, well,
maybe
we
a
know
little
what
bit.
the hell we're talking about. we think we know what the hell we're talking about. Or they think we
Well,
they think
yeah.
we know what the hell we're talking about. Yeah.
Like they bumped into Jack Forrester, and he was actually like singing my praises as well. So that's a good stamp of approval, I would say.
Jack Forster,
And of
great
course,
journalist,
yeah.
Jack Forster, not Forrester, by the way. He doesn't chop trees down for the listeners. Yeah.
Forrester, yeah. So that takes us to a more familiar brand, and I'm going to let Palm lead with this one because I know it's a brand close to his heart.
Yeah, so that took us to a brand, as Andy says, very close to my heart, Oris from Holstein in Switzerland. The story with this brand and me, it was my first wage packet. I went and bought an Oris, a big Crown 3, and then shortly afterwards, I bought another Oris, a big pointer date. So I was really bought into the brand, and I always keep an eye out for it. I haven't bought one since, but then again, I've always got top respect for it. So, first of all, we saw the Aquis chronograph, which at first you kind of think, okay, yes, Aquis. We all know what the Aquis is, and it's 43.5 millimeters as well. So, on paper, this probably would be something that you'd kind of think that's nice and hand it back. But this blue turquoisey sunbursty dial they've got, fume-esque. We go throwing an esque into just to cover my backside there. Yeah, sunburst dial with a beautiful blue ceramic bezel, chronograph function, 43, perfectly proportioned as well. So when I tried this on, I was thinking, oh, that, and they said, look, we saw it in the case, and I thought that looks big. They go, no, try it on, and I was like, okay, I'll try this on. Top guy there, Inan. Thank you so much for looking after us while we were there and plying us with lots of beer as well. Thank you. I tried it on and I thought, wow, this does not feel like 43.5 millimeters. It doesn't feel small. It doesn't feel, it is slightly large, but it just felt right. It felt like a proper solid chronograph. We were talking about the Favre Leuba one and it being a really solid chronograph. This is a solid watch and it looks stunning. And I've got to say, 4,400 euros. It really is a special piece in the Oris collection. It's certainly, in my opinion, I would say check this one out. The Aquis chronograph in that bluey, not turquoisey blue, got a flinty
like
blue. I don't know, what is it?
Like an ocean kind of
Yeah,
depths to it, you know.
ocean blue.
Ice crystal.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Don't
that's
know.
it. Yeah, I think like icy lake, you know, I don't know, glaciers. It is beautiful. That's the best way of putting it. Beautiful dial. Check it out in the show notes.
Pushes are a great size also. Very well proportioned, very well made. Looks good. And if you get a chance to try it on, please do. This is why I'm loath to say that was my favorite, because every time I look at another one now, I'm thinking, oh, well, you know, that could be
That's
my
my
favorite.
favorite.
Yeah, that could be my favorite. There you go. Yeah, this could be my favorite as well. And then there's another one from Oris. But Andy, do you want to give your?
Yeah, I'll
take
give
on
my
this?
closing feelings. Like this watch, I think, you know me, drop it down to 39 millimeter. I'll be all over this. For me, the size is a little larger than what I'm used to. Your wrist is bigger than mine as well. I think for you, it looked fantastic. I think it's the right one for you. For me, I think the right one would actually be the next watch. And I think you probably agree with that, which I'm going to let Palm pronounce it. So for us English guys, I'm just going to say it was the LFP limited edition. But Palm, in your excellent French, how do you pronounce this?
Oris. No, joking. It's the
Oris.
League Football Professionnel. So basically, this was made with the French Football League. And as Oris have a great sustainability program going and initiative, this is also made to help out charities that support underprivileged children and help give them a better start in life. That aside, it's just simple yet perfect. Again, it was another one we tried on. We both were like, you know, you could tell the sign of a good watch if someone likes it. When someone not doesn't want to give it back, but keeps it on just a little bit longer. Normally, like I say, oh, here you go, thank you very much, and hand it back. But this was, wow, very, very well.
Well, I think we can talk about the dial details because there's a few special features there, but just shelf that for a second. What really impressed me on this piece was the bracelet, the slimness, the sleekness. The bracelet felt superb. This watch is €2,500. the bracelet was just top for me. And the watch in general was very slim, very, very sleek. And then, of course, when you go to the dial, there's just so many nice details, right? Like, I love the way they've done the Oris on the logo. Like, it's drawn on style, right? It's really playful.
Yeah, it's like it's handwritten.
Very, very cool. And then you have the multicolored text, right? At the bottom where it says water resistant.
Yeah.
Like, really, it's very playful. Playful, but not gimmicky. It's just, it's cool. I think they've nailed it. I think it was my favorite. It was my favorite Oris, and the price point, superb. 38mm. Is that the CP7 sweet spot?
38, 39. We can hit that sweet spot.
It's just fantastic piece. What more can you say? It's one what you might look in the picture and be like, meh, but when you see it in the metal, it's great. Great watch.
I have heard this. It's a great watch. I have heard from a YouTuber that they didn't quite get it when they did a review. They hadn't seen it, but they were saying, because I was on a WhatsApp group with them, and I was like, okay, these are my picks, and this was one of the picks I sent them, and they said they discussed it, and it didn't go down that well amongst the panel. To me, immediately I thought, okay, that's fine, but you have to see it. You've got to, and even like Andy was talking about the coloured writing where it says water resistant. Again, it's helping children, but it just gives you that memory of what it's for as well. What purchasing this watch is contributing towards as well. That's not the reason why you should buy the watch. I would call this a petroleum blue dial. Very deep, very well done. Quite matte. The indices just right. The stick hands are just right. Very nice. Very nice. And the bracelet I didn't notice the bracelet. So what you picked up on there, I guess that's a good sign. You don't notice it because it's just perfectly proportioned and weighted.
I think this comes from, lately we've been sent quite a few review watches, and it's a very nice position to be in, and it's nothing about that. From that experience, you start to check everything. You get into the habit of checking every little detail, as when sometimes before getting that experience, you would go try on a watch and then you'd be looking more cosmetically, like, does it look cool on my wrist? As now I find myself feeling how the bracelet is, like just looking at the little details, and being a bit of a vintage guy as well, it definitely had that vintage style bracelet as well, that slimness, that elegance, which, yeah, I think it's an excellent watch. I think it was actually one of the standouts for me at this kind of category, at this price category. I really, really like it.
I think it was, when it comes to a modern sports watch, out of the modern sports watches we saw, I'd say this one suited Andy the most. That's in my personal opinion. And I liked it as well. So there you go.
Yeah, I think it's a winner.
We also can't go to Oris without checking out a model that was released a few years ago, the Pro Pilot X. We were lucky enough to see the Pro Pilot X Laser, which is a metallic dial which just has chemical treatments on it. It's a titanium dial which doesn't have any paint or any materials put on it. It's a special chemical technique that is used, and only by the people Oris go to get this done can you find this. And each dial is unique because everything is done in its own way. It's not a conveyor belt, churn it out exactly the same. Everything is going to look the same. The treatment turns out how the treatment turns out, and it's just stunning. Again, in the light, you just see it transition from grey to jade green to sage to blue to turquoise to deep blue. It's just... Oops, hit my microphone there.
Keep that in. That's quite...
Just hit my microphone with my cap.
This is how expressive we are.
We're giving it some real oomph. Again, top watch. I'd read about this when it came out last year, but it was really nice to see it.
I think we covered you. This was one of your picks in the show. In a previous show we've done, this particular Pro Pilot was your choice.
That's right.
For a certain category.
Yes.
I can't remember what it was. It's quite a lot of episodes.
I think it was a wild card. I think it was one of those watches that, wasn't your regular type. Well, there you go. Yeah, it was fantastic. Really great. Well, no, there you go. Double whammy. Doubly satisfied.
And CP7 sweet spot, 39mm.
39mm. But the Pro Pilot X is a great range of watches. I think it deserves a bit more love than it's getting. I can see maybe prices are going up a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure why this doesn't
But
get
for
it.
the quality, as you say, the dial's extremely unique on this particular
Yeah.
example. But just in general, I liked the pink, and I remember the guys at Oris saying that was like one of the least popular. And like, people need to have a bit more fun. I think people are maybe having a bit more fun these days. Maybe it would do better now. But you're a big fan of the Kermit, right? For
Yeah.
example.
Yeah. That they said that smashed it, which is
Yeah,
really. It was nice to hear that because a brand alike and the people again who you speak to in the brand and how good they are is another. It's
yeah,
part of the experience when you're a journalist. You're going
yeah,
one. Obviously, the watches will do all the speaking, and they do. And I think with Oris they do. But then the people also make it special. They make you remember it more than you would if it was just someone going through the motions.
yeah, definitely. It's the people and it's the brand. Hopefully, we're giving you this. What I said at the very start of the show is the essence of the brand. You start to understand who the brand is through. They're not just sales representatives; they're like brand and marketing leaders and etc. Right? But it's really important that it's portrayed in the correct way, especially to journalists and especially to customers who's walking in. And Oris did a great job at that. They're that laid back. They're like, yeah, if you just want to come in, even if you don't want to talk to us, but you want a beer, just come in and grab yourself a beer. You don't even have to look at my watches or
Come
talk.
back in tomorrow, and you don't even have to go past there. Just there's a beer fridge there. Just take one out. Go off. Don't worry.
Help
Yeah,
yourself, and yeah, don't worry if you don't want
we
to
sound
talk
like
to us.
alcoholics. We're not. It's just at
Yeah, we're
watch
not. We're
events.
not.
It's just
It's part of the package.
the
Yeah.
wine and beer flow like water. So that's
Yeah, and we had one beer. To be in our defense, we had
yeah.
one beer with Oris. We didn't take it. We didn't abuse that
We
offer.
didn't go
We were
every
very
day and
well
just like
behaved.
go there for breakfast with our bowl of cornflakes with beer on it. But yeah,
Yeah, exactly that. The final piece, what we saw with Oris, was the ProPilot X, the caliber 115, so the fully skeletonized, quite a large size to what I'd normally go for at 44mm, hitting that higher price point of 8K. But I've got to admit, I really liked it. It was really cool, aggressive looking, meaty, really nice depth to the skeletonization, very cleanly done, very well executed, in my opinion. Good legibility as well. Nice tones. The hands were like a nice white against a grey contrast, so almost monotone colors, but it just worked. It had very clean lines, very angular, and I think it was a really nice, because some brands can do skeletonization and some you think just put a nice style on there instead. But with Oris exposing themselves in this way, I think it's worked. I think it looked great. I was really impressed with this piece. And I think the big thing about this, it was titanium, right? So even though it was 44mm, it felt quite light for its size, which was definitely a factor.
yeah. I was about to say, what did you think of the 44?
It was huge, but
It being 44, I mean, yeah.
yeah, I sank down the vintage hole, right? And this isn't what this show's about. However, I used to wear bigger watches. I wore a Creppers, which was 45mm. I wore a Mr. Roboto, what was whatever crazy size it was. I can wear bigger watches. I just have to get used to them again. And in this case, I think the 44, it worked for the depth, for the skeletonization. For me, I was happy with the size. But how did you find it too big, or was it okay for you?
I find the fact it was titanium and that it looked so good, it was fine. It's probably a bit too big for me, I'd say. I think I like the Pro Pilot and I like it being at the 39mm point because it's just a nice, easy pilot's watch to wear. But the one thing that impressed me is skeletonization. When you do skeletonization, you've got to make that movement look pretty. That's the whole point of doing it. You want to be showing off your movement. And I think it looks incredible. It's a very, very well done movement on this. And a power reserve as well. Small seconds. Really cool. Really cool. Really attractive watch. This is what I'd say. This is a very good looking watch. So Oris, again, they've
Yeah,
hit so many. The chronograph, the pilot's watch, the skeletonized watch, the dive watch, which was the diver from the FPL. It's They've hit so many points there. So many.
Yeah, I think there's a watch for everybody in the Oris catalogue, in all honesty. I agree with you, the 44 is a little large, but because it's such a cool watch, I would definitely rock it. Now, it's a different question, would I buy it? Would I personally spend €8,000 and buy this watch? I think it's worth it for the person who is comfortable with that size. Again, if I was to go for this kind of watch, the 39 would be the sweet spot, as always, right? But it's just less invasive on your wrist and more wearable. But the titanium certainly compensates for that. And for people with a larger wrist, again, it's not about size, it's about the size of your wrist, what fits and what doesn't fit. So what works for me doesn't work for somebody else and vice versa, right? So it's really dependent on your wrist size.
Purely on the size, not on how it looks. It looks incredible. If they got this in 39, then now you're talking.
Exactly. But if you had a 7.5 inch wrist, then it'd probably be
the
great.
44.
44. So it's all relative, right, to your wrist size. 100%. So that takes us to a very exciting brand, actually, for us. A brand new brand who has come across the CP7 desk, Depancel, and excellent sporty rally style watches. And we tried out first the Allure. And I'm going to let Palm do this one because you were like, what you said was quite funny, right? With the name. So we tried one on the steel bracelet. So I'm going to let you do this pronunciation.
So we tried one on the steel bracelet. It's a chronograph. It's 43 mil. They do two types. They do one in 39 mil, the Allure British Racing Green, which is stunning in color. Obviously, British Racing Green and a chronograph are going to be a match made in heaven, and it's really cool with that yellow styling as well, and the crown and the pushers. It just looks so vintage. Again, these are very vintage looking sports watches. They're not trying to be ultra modern. They are modern watches. They do have hints of modernity to them, but they are throwback retro style watches. The second one is automatic in the Allure range, 43 mil, slightly bigger, but equally stunning. Blue and orange is a combination I love. Blue dial with orange detailing on the second hand, the chronograph hand, and the subdials have some orange in them, as well as the tachymeter as well, or tachymeter. And that is your chronograph B, they call it. So it must be B for blue. The one that Andy was referring to is the Allure with the steel bracelet. Again, another automatic chronograph, 43 millimeters, and it's called the Jürgen Klaus. And I joked. I don't mean to offend him. I said, wow, that's probably the most German-sounding name I've heard for a watch, is the Jürgen Klaus. So they found it funny as well. So it was
that's what I thought. Yeah.
They did see they thought it was really cool. And Bruno, who was there, who was speaking to us, who was the director there, and he just sat down, spoke to us, wanted to, again, let's go back to people and passion and fun. That's what the show's about. And when we spoke to him, he just said, right, okay, so tell me who you are and why do you do what you do? And we just explained what the podcast was about. There's fun, there's people, there's just talking watches with so many aspects. Just making sure you cover everything, not just technical detail and boring stuff. And he loved it. I hope he did. If you're listening, Bruno, tell us if you didn't. But he loved what we were saying, and he loved showing us these watches. He had the passion as well. They're very car motivated, very, very motorsport motivated. These are proper racing chronographs. They're not. You won't mistake this for a pilot's watch or going into space or anything like that. Navy navigation. This is a pure sports car chronograph. They even have associations with a motor racing event as well. The name actually escapes me at the moment, but really hardcore sports watches, really hardcore, and they're involved as well, and that's pure passion and love. And they wanted to make a watch for that and make it a better experience.
Yeah, exactly. They sponsor. Yeah, again, it evades my mind as well, but they sponsor an event as well. They're really involved in the sport. It's not just that they love the racing and the cars. It wasn't that. It's like they're actually actively involved
in it
as well. Yeah, they're actually in it. It's in their DNA, and it's extremely apparent within their watches. Like even when you look at the Allure, going back to the automatic chronograph B, like the stitching going down the strap. It's almost like the stitching and the ribbon going down the center. It's like what you'd have in an old sports rally car. It's just got that essence of sport. And the straps, one thing I'll highlight is the quality of the leather on the straps was superb. Really well executed, really well done. And equally on the bracelet, it felt great on the Jürgen Klaus, Palm's favorite. But what I really liked as well, just speaking on that piece in particular, is you have this like turquoise chronograph second hand, and it matches on the tachymeter, however you pronounce that, and that first section from like 12 to 3 is also in that turquoise color. It just felt very playful, but it worked. And the colors, the tones of the dial go from a light blue to a darker blue. It just looked great. And again, these pieces, just to give you an essence of the price, 1,800 for the Jürgen Klaus. If we're looking at the automatic chronograph B, all sticking to the lower family, 2,400. And then if you go for the manual wind, British Racing Green, 680
phenomenal
euro.
price.
I mean,
phenomenal price.
Phenomenal value. Beautiful dial, and just, excellent pieces. Then there was something quite novel, right? There was the Allura, but they had a Valjoux 92. They sourced like 100 vintage Valjoux 92 movements and then put them in these watches to have this vintage race heritage to them as well.
Just to add, they reconditioned them. They didn't just source them and chuck them in the watch.
Yeah, they didn't just stick some
They
old,
reconditioned and made them fit for purpose in a modern watch.
Yeah. I hope that would go without saying, but to be clear, they didn't just stick some rusty old movement with a rotor half falling
off. 100 now, throw them in.
Whatever,
beautiful turquoise dial on one of them with that black minute track and the little sub-seconds.
Yeah, the one we tried was the turquoise, right? Yeah. And looked great, not falling to pieces. No rotor inside, actually, I correct myself. It's a mechanical, right? Valjoux 92, if my memory serves correctly. But beautiful, great depth to the back. It's exhibition back as well, so you could see what was going on inside. Yeah, I love that turquoise dial. I thought it was super, super cool. Really impressed with the brand.
There was one chronograph, but we're not sure if we can talk about that you will be seeing soon too.
So that leads us to a very special moment and maybe one of the biggest highlights within our trip, I would say. And I know Palm agrees on this. So that's Daniel Roth and the whole LV experience, which we'll go into as we talk about this. But we got to see the rebirth of Daniel Roth and the foundational complication, which is the tourbillon range. And we saw this piece in rose gold and yellow gold, and stays very true to form, right? To the original Daniel Roth. But everything's just been tweaked, been engineered to, because you got to think when the original Daniel Roths were made, the tools, what we have available now, he didn't have back then. So in that period, so everything evolves very, very quickly, and the facility, what they have, we'll maybe touch on that in a moment, but just the finishing, the way the watch fit on the wrist, everything about it just felt perfect to me. I was really, really impressed. But do you think I think we need to talk more about the experience, maybe? What do you think?
Well, where do you begin? It was, on a personal note, the best experience of the whole trip, I would say. LVMH's watch area, La Fabrique du Temps, the fabric of time, invited us to a very special event to see these new watches from Daniel Roth, the relaunch of Daniel Roth, and it was absolutely incredible. We got to first get hands-on with these watches. I don't think these were readily available for everyone. It was an extreme privilege, and we thank Sarah so much for all she did for us and inviting us as well. We were in very esteemed journalistic company, let me say. This wasn't something that was just open to the public. This was something very, very special, very exclusive.
Special.
To the point where we talked about the watches, and then LVMH's top men came in. So we got to see Michael Navas and Enrico Barbassini, who had such passion for the brand, who went through everything in such detail. Enrico was actually wearing the last Daniel Roth watch in production ever made before this relaunch. It was a jumping hour watch, and it was to hear them talking about it and just answering questions, saying, hey, just ask us anything. It was such a warm, genuine session to find out about the brand. It wasn't a corporate mechanical, right? This is this is that, blah, blah, blah. We got to go now. We've got another appointment. It was very, very personalized. And I think top marks to LVMH and La Fabrique du Temps. And once again to Sarah, thank you so much for letting us join this ride.
100%. You summed it up great there. And again, just be on the other side. We're in a very... I'm grateful every single day for just hearing what you just said then. I'm just thinking, why am I there? Imposter syndrome. No, I'm joking. But just that, like, we're in this position where we get that. And to be on, just to put yourself at the other side of the fence. But when you're on the enthusiast side, you look at a brand and you're like, corporate, Louis Vuitton, it's all going to be corporate. It's going to be called, oh, we're too good for you. We don't want to talk to you. That could be the picture you paint in your mind. And it certainly shouldn't be, because when you, again, it was so warm, so inviting. These top of the game people, just open the doors and you ask us anything. And to the point where they were being dragged out to go to another appointment. They didn't want to leave, right? It's just an incredible experience, very humbling, and it just shows you how human they are and just how much passion they had. Pam was wearing a review watch, and again, we don't have to go into every single detail, I don't think, for this show, but they just showed so much interest in that, and to the point where they're looking at it under loop, they're just like us, watch geeks, right? So when you see that, the brand's in safe hands. I think the direction for Daniel Roth is very bright when you've got people that passionate about watchmaking and watches in general. I think it's gone to something great. Great first release, very safe. They're staying true to the form as well. We're not going to change. We're going to stick to the traditional Daniel Roth shape. One little detail they did was put the shape of the watch within the D of Daniel Roth.
No, it was in the O of Roth.
Oh, it was in the O, sorry. Yeah, in the O of Roth. Yeah, that's right. And there was a little bit of, purists maybe didn't like it. I think it's quite novel. I think it's quite cool having the K shape in the O, because it's like the silhouette. That's who Daniel, that is what the Daniel Roth brand is.
Exactly. It's what it means.
It's really cool.
And Daniel Roth liked it.
So like, who's arguing?
That was one of the main things. Yeah, he didn't mind. Yeah, who can argue with that? So actually, I do want to talk about that moment when Michael and Enrico saw that I was trying on the Daniel Roth Tourbillon, and I was wearing the Edward Christopher Manta in forest green. And I spoke to Sean. I said, I'm going to take your watch there. I'm going to wear it around to show it off a little bit. Why not? Thank you for letting me review it. This is how I can repay you. They just picked it up off the table and said, oh, what's this? We've not seen this before. And I said, oh, it's a new British brand. And then they were like, oh, the dial looks like a screen. It's just such an amazing dial. And then they got the loop out. So check out our Instagram, actually. We did a post on that, and you can actually see them with the watch in their hands, with the loop, looking at it, looking at that dial. And again, really into watches, really into something that they'd not seen before. And the fact that they spoke about Daniel Roth with extreme passion, extreme passion with extreme prejudice. It was really refreshing, and again reinforces the reasons why I'm happy to be here and why I'm count my blessings every day that I am.
It's hard to put into words sometimes, these experiences, I would say, and this is certainly one of them. It was just an incredible experience, I think, the best way to put it.
The experience. Yeah, the experience. Well, there was another one after us, but we'll talk about that in the next one. But we're not going yet. But in the next show. The next brand we're going to talk about, I didn't actually see because I had to fly off on the Sunday morning at an early flight because I couldn't get a later one, which meant Andy had plenty of time to have a wander around by himself and just talk to watch brands and get to see some more watches. I'm quite envious not getting to see this brand, but Andy, tell us all about Armin Strom.
As Pam says, it's very unfortunate he wasn't there for these pieces and for the experience with Armin Strom. I did have a colleague for that day, if you like. So Sophie's Watch World did join me. It was cool hanging out with her as well. So she came along with me to check out the pieces, and we sat with Marie and we sat with Gurek. And Gurek started to talk us through these incredible pieces. And we started with the Tribute one, which is your gateway into Armin Strom. And just when you start looking at the engineering, when you see the finishing on the movements, just the way they do the dial layouts, almost like the dial's just floating in a sea of guilloche. It's just, you know that you're handling something what's in that independent watchmaker realm. It just has that, again, I'm using this word a lot in this show, but that essence of that, right? Then we moved to the Gravity Equal Force range, and that came in like a grey, a guilloche dial, and also a purple. The purple was so nice. It was so beautiful. And just the bridge system, what they have on there as well, and the way all the movements put together, the lugs, how they just... Again, it's got that kind of... What's the best way of putting this? It's got this engineered look to it. It's very... Everything's just got this futuristic kind of engineering look to it, yet it has some subtle refinements what link back to traditional watchmaking. So it's quite interesting how it all ties together. So we've got this kind of modern way, a modern approach, yet respecting some traditional elements of watchmaking would be the best way of putting that. Then I tried the 1 week, what has the 1 week power reserve. Really cool watch on a bracelet, a bigger piece. My favorite really from the three what I'm talking now would be the Gravity Equal Force range. I loved how the dial was put together. Again, I like the lug shape on both the Gravity and the Tribute one. Just got a kind of cool squared off look to them, which is cool. Again, Armin Strom has this unique ID to the brand, which is really, really cool. But Palm, I know you didn't get a chance to see these pieces. Handling it, one thing is the form factor. The way they sat on the wrist was very, very good. They just sat well. The sizes were great. It talk again those sweet spots around 40mm, 38mm, like really nice sizes. But what's your impression just when you're taking a look at some of the shots what I got?
I saw the new one. It looked very cool. Very, very cool. It looked quite complicated. And from what I've heard from other journalists, it was one of the standouts for a lot of them. I will get hands on with it one way or another, I'm sure.
So I really enjoyed getting a hands-on experience with the Tribute one, the Gravity Equal Force for 1 week. They're the core collection, if you like, of Armin Strom, which was great. But then a really crazy piece came out. It was the Dual Time Resonance, and it was huge. It was a Goliath of a watch, 60mm. Huge, absolutely huge. It was a tank on the wrist. Yet a marvel to look at the engineering. You see these dual clutch systems running above the two dials for the dual time for the GMT, and just so animated, and the depth to the movement on the back of the case. Just, this is when you're in real horology, right? Top tier watchmaking. Yet the cool thing about this is they show you this piece on first. They're like, so this was the concept. This is what we wanted to create. And this is where we are today. And they got all of this tech into a 39mm form factor. The same technology, the same innovation at a wearable size. The CP7 sweet spot, as we like to say. It's such a shame that Palm couldn't handle this piece, because it was genuinely maybe one of the highlights of the show for me. Just Armin Strom in general, the quality, the uniqueness, the design ID, what they have is just, it's them, it's theirs, it's not like anything else. And the way they construct the movement to be there on the dial, like the dial is as much the movement as it is the time telling itself. And you can see genuinely the passion and playfulness and the commitment to engineering and striving to do the impossible runs through their blood. And it was incredible to see and great to have that conversation and just feel that energy what they have. The watch itself, absolutely incredible. Another way to put it. So you've got the dual clutches running, and then you have the balance wheels in between, and it's just constantly correcting each movement in synchronization together. And if one gets out of sync, the other one takes over, more accurate than a tourbillon. Like the innovation, the level of knowledge to create this masterpiece, hats off. Very, very impressive. And to really truly appreciate this, I'll put the video in the show notes so you can actually see this watch fully animated, and I'll put the video of the OG as well. I believe I captured an original OG video. If not, I have the picture at least, and you can just see the evolution for yourself. And great way of doing it from Armin Strom, shock value, going from this is what the concept is, this is what we have now. Just excellent experience. And again, thank you, Sophie, as well, for hanging out. It was good fun, but great experience. And yeah, next time, Pam, you'll be there to enjoy it as much as I did, for sure.
We have many more to talk about, but unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. So I reckon we're going to have to do a part 2, and maybe we bring on a special guest as well to speak through it with us.
Yeah, it sounds like good fun. So watch your space, see who the special guest is very, very soon. And we really hope you enjoyed the show. We really hope we gave you the atmosphere as much as we gave you the watches themselves. We'll share more of our experiences and what we got up to, absolutely, in the part 2. So make sure to check out the show notes at www.chronopassion7, as in the number 7.com. Everything will be there for your audio visual experience. And I will do my classic sign off. So thank you so much for listening. That is hasta luego and adios from Barcelona.
And as Andy says, goodbye from Spain. Thank you once again for joining us. We hope what we've shared with you has resonated with you. We hope you feel like you were there in a little bit, in a small way. Maybe next year, let's get some people down there and check out Geneva Watch Days. It really is an incredible, incredible show. You'll meet so many people. You'll see so many watches. You'll have a blast. You'll have a ball. And you'll even meet us there. So there you go. And added bonus. So from London, it's Toodle Pip and laters. And we'll see you and you'll hear us in the next one.